So here we are going to explain how do we the AWS performance and cybersecurity of the database, API, Lambda, and front-end applications. We are going to learn how to develop a Node.js Lambda. With this architecture, we will learn how we create this Dynamo table with these fields, and also we will do a mass insert using a Python script of 2000 rows. We will give permissions to our Lambda function. We will provide the code and explain every line of the code to how to define this Lambda code and to create a URL that can be called from the front end in PHP. This is the general structure of the Lambda function. Here we have the table with these fields with the global secondary index of channel and start date fields that we're going to use to invoke the table query. We are going to define the function as asynchronous because it will wait for the front end and wait for the query response from the Dynamo database. Then we are going to pass the parameters from the PHP function. This is the HTML form where we are going to pass the parameters, and we will encode them in a JSON that will be read back to the Lambda, and it will pass this to the query that we are defining here. Okay, we are going to learn how to build this query and make this query against the table database and wait for the response from the database to get this result. Here we are going to learn, this is the code of the Lambda function. As we explained before, it is defined as an asynchronous because it will wait for the parameters from the front end and wait for from the response of the table. This is the most important part of the code of the Lambda because here we are defining how do we want the query. We want the channel equal to the channel that we are receiving from the front end and the range dates that we want the records from the table. Okay, so once we have our Lambda function, we have to define the permissions because we have to say that this Lambda have a permission policy defined to access the Amazon DynamoDB full access. Okay, so we are going to learn how to do that, and once we have this defined, we can make a test. We can create a new event to test our function. This is how we simulate the parameter that we are passing from the front end. We want the channel CEO for the date 1 of 1st of July and day 2 for the July 19. Okay, so here we make and execute the test, and we get this response from the data from the Dynamo table. Okay, so that, at this point we know that everything it is working smoothly, so we can go and move to the front end. This is how do we define the front end. Okay, the front end, this is the HTML front end where we define the channel day 1 and day 2. We convert to JSON from the HTML from PHP, and we pass these parameters to the URL that we defined for the Lambda. Okay, we are going to learn how to expose this URL that it is defined here. This Lambda has this URL that we pass and we write on the PHP to call our Lambda function with these parameters. And once we have this defined, we can call the Lambda and we get the response from the Dynamo table. Okay, so we are going to learn how to do that. Here Here we are going to show you that this is the front end. We are going to define that the channel of we want it is CEO, and the date range, it is the 1st of July to the 19th of July. Okay, we query the Dynamo database, and that's the response that we get from the Dynamo table. Okay, so everything is working smoothly, and as a final topic, we will see how to monitor our function. These are the invocations, and we have to review if these invocations of the Lambda function has a correspondence in the invocations that we are getting from the Dynamo table. Okay, so we will see if they make sense, because otherwise probably it will mean that we have a security problem, because if we have a peak of reads on the table of Dynamo, but that does not correspond to the peak of callings of executing the Lambda function, that means that the Dynamo table is serving requests that are outside of our application, and that could mean that we have a security breach. Okay, so I hope to see you in this course, and thank you very much for your attention.